Namaste, India. Welcome to the program She Speaks, hosted by Aambra Foundation. My name is Patricia Mukhim. I'm the editor of a newspaper based in Meghalaya called the Shillong Times, and I've been editor of the newspaper since 2008. Today, I'm here to share my story. It's a story of struggles, it's a story of small victories, and it's a story where I would like to encourage young people to stand up for what they believe in and to understand the meaning of true education. True education means that we speak up and not remain silent, because in a democracy, silence is a curse. We are able to understand, we're able to fathom the meaning of development, the meaning of women's empowerment, and therefore we should be vocal about all these issues. I was born to a single mother. She brought me up with great difficulties. She was not very educated. She studied only up to class 6, but she really struggled to put me in an English medium school with the hope that I would be able to do something in life. But her aspirations did not match with her income. So one day I was sent home from school. I was only about 7 years old then. I was sent home because I didn't pay my fees. My mother was very, very upset, and the next day she must have borrowed money from friends or acquaintances or relatives and came to pay the school fees, but not after she had given an earful to the mother superior of the school. So for me, that was a defining moment. I felt that I should really do well in life and make my mother proud of me for all that she's gone through as a single mother. Unfortunately, I do not have other siblings. Otherwise, I may have had to drop out of school and I won't know what my future would have been. But anyway, that is the story of my early life. And to add to all the difficulties, I became a mother at age 18. And I'm also, I was also a single mother at that time. And in our society, that's not such a taboo. Women are easily abandoned, easily divorced. They're not paid alimony and don't have the resources to go to a court of law to demand alimony. So it was tough again for me. And at that time, when I had given birth to my eldest daughter, who is now a medical doctor with the Northeastern Hill University, I had just completed my pre-university exams. And after I had given birth to her, after a few months, uh, I got through the exams and I wanted to do English honors in St. Mary's College. I went to the principal and she said, don't do English honors because you have a child. You won't be able to cope. You won't be able to do all the research, the reading up that is needed for English honors. So you take history honors. And she encouraged me. She said, you can borrow all the books from the library. You don't need to buy anything. She knew my background very well. So I would borrow all the books from St. Mary's College, and then I handed them over only after I had completed my honors, my BA honors. And the story of going through this period of my college for 3 years with the support of my mother, again, is another story. She worked really, really hard, and I was fortunate that I had an aunt who was living with us. She also didn't have a job, so she was looked after by my mother, but she became the person who cared for my daughter and later on for my other children as well, because after I had completed my BA, I took up a teaching job. And after that, I was teaching for about 22 years before entering into the profession of full-fledged journalism. Um, Before becoming an editor of the newspaper, I was already writing a lot of articles for different newspapers. I had started, I think, in 83, 84, writing first of all for the Shillong Times. I started by writing letters to the editor on issues that I felt very strongly about. Um, then the editor at that time, who is also the owner of the newspaper, invited me to come for a little chat with him. I went, and he said to me, "Why don't you write regularly for the newspaper? As it is, very few Khasi people, tribal people, write anything at all. It's good to hear people expressing their views and expressing it for a larger audience that can read English." So I thought about that, and I said, I don't know if I can force myself to write something if I don't really feel strongly about. And if I become a regular writer, I will have to write whether I want to do that or not. But he kept encouraging me, and finally I started writing articles regularly, but not on a particular day. Then I met people everywhere in the city, and they said, if you're writing, please write on a particular day so that we know and we get the newspaper for that day. So I started writing on a Friday, and that has remained the routine till date. I still write a weekly column for the Shillong Times every Friday. I now write for the Assam Tribune, have been writing for many years now, bi-monthly article. And I write for other news portals as well, as and when they request me to do it. And that it happens when there are issues in the Northeast which need to be analyzed, which need to be interpreted for the rest of India. So that's been the story of my life. And because I speak up, I also, attract a lot of adverse attention. Uh, there are several court cases pending, defamation cases, and what have you. But this is what life is all about when you live your life as a true citizen of a democracy. In a democracy, you don't choose what is safe, you choose what is correct. And sometimes it can be a very lonely journey, but I think it's a journey that's worth it. And this is what I tell young people all the time when I speak to them in universities and colleges, that, if you have a point of view, please speak it out, please share it, please write about it, because we have too few people who write, especially very few young people who write and speak their minds. And this is another of my pet topics, that those who are in universities are paid to think. It is their duty to think. They should be the ones who should be grappling with development and the meaning of development, and whether what is happening in our respective states today is really development, or whether it is just development of infrastructure, whereas our minds have remained status quo. We haven't progressed in the way we think, in the way we look at life, in the way we understand democracy, and in trying to deepen democracy. Uh, if we don't do this, then believe me, those who can shout the loudest will carry the day. So it's not exactly uh, a very easy life to be in a democracy. It demands something from you. Now, there have been a lot of people who asked me how I cope up with all the pressures. I have a couple of hobbies that help me unwind, that help to rejuvenate my mind, my body, my emotional quotient. See, I lost one of my daughters in 2008. I lost her to suicide. She had bipolar. She was suffering from bipolar depression. And we were giving her, we tried to take her to the best a psychiatrist, and she was asked to take medicines. She got married, but 7 months after the marriage, she just decided that it was not worth living. So that was a big blow to us as a family. I had I had 4 children, and now I have 3. As I said earlier, the eldest of my children is a medical doctor. She works for Northeastern Hill University. The second one has passed away. She used to be working for International Fund for Agricultural Development in Meghalaya when the project was on here. Then the third daughter works for United Nations Population Fund in New Delhi. And my son, who's the youngest, works for the Indian Institute of Management in Shillong. He is the corporate placement officer of the institute. So by the grace of God, my children have done well for themselves. And I must admit again that I have been a single mother for all of my 4 children, because that is what life has dealt me. And I've tried to make the best out of it. I've not, regretted anything. Just been thankful that I was able to bring them up to be good human beings. I've never pushed them. I've never done any sifarish for them. They have worked hard to be where they are today. And I think that's a credit to womanhood as a whole, because personally, I think there is a lot of power in us women. It's the power that we haven't really brought out to the fore. Many of us live very obscure lives, believing that we shouldn't be stepping out too much. It's not our domain. That is a male domain. We have to be confined within certain paradigms. I think that's a wrong thinking. We all have, we have an equal or an even playing ground. And if that has not been created for us, we need to help create that even playing ground by advocating with our governments, by advocating with different institutions. And this is what I had done for a very long time. As a woman activist, as someone who believes in equality and equity of opportunities, equal opportunities, whether it's for a job, whether it's for anything, even when one is invited for a conference. Sometimes I find myself to be the only woman in the panel. So I wonder why this happens all the time in our country, where we just invite a woman speaker to say that we've invited a woman. It's not really that you value the views of the person. It's just to make sure that there's some gender equity in that conference. This has to end, because women are equally gifted, they're equally capable, and sometimes much more, I think, in terms of resilience, in terms of their, their ability to cope with so much problems. I think women have been endowed with some very special inspirational qualities. So I would ask all women who are watching this program and who perhaps will be watching it later, that we should not be 6 feet behind anyone. We should be walking equally. We should be talking, reading. We need to do a lot of reading up, of course, to inform ourselves, so that, as it is, women are considered talkative. Women are considered sometimes to not have a correct perspective on a lot of things. I think we need to get out of that by informing ourselves, and also by claiming our rights to the spaces in a democracy. I come from Meghalaya, which is a matrilineal society, and I've written a book called Waiting for an Equal World, where I have pointed out the deficiencies of this society. We have traditional institutions which are quite powerful politically, but women are not allowed to hold office in these traditional institutions. It's the same with all the other tribal states as well. But for Meghalaya, this is a double whammy because we are a matrilineal society. We speak a lot about the kind of prestige that women hold in this society, and yet the paradox is that there is a lot of malnutrition in Meghalaya. There, about 56% of women are anemic. There is no spacing of children, so the family size is very big, and this takes a toll on the women, of course. Then if the woman is anemic, then naturally the child she produces is also weak and sickly and malnourished. And then, you have a very high infant mortality rate. During this COVID period, between April to July, 4 months, Meghalaya had 877 infant deaths and 67 maternal deaths. This is a very high number, and these numbers are only from what has been surveyed. There are many women who die giving birth at home. Their numbers are not recorded, so it could be a bigger number. Then if we continue to produce malnourished children, their cognitive domain is not developed, they are stunted, and these will not be able to get through education. They will drop out of school and they will become a burden to the society. So what actually are our governments, or is the government of Meghalaya, for instance, doing about this very, very serious issue? It so happens that today is also Meghalaya Day, and Meghalaya is 49 years old. It was born on the 21st January 1972. So it's a day also when we reflect on the development indicators of this state. We should be looking at human development rather than just infrastructural development. And that is something that I will be writing today because my article appears tomorrow, which is a Friday. And I think it's important for every citizen to nudge the government, to force it to take accountability for human development. It's pointless having infrastructure if humans are stunted, if humans are not enjoying good health, if access to health services is still so very difficult, as I have seen during my visits to the villages during this pandemic. I spent a lot of time visiting the villages, and I find that it's very, very difficult for women. Number one, women are the mainstay of agriculture. They are the ones who do the transplanting of rice. They bend for many long hours. And there are studies which show that this bending for very long hours, especially when you're at the early stages of pregnancy, can lead to abortion. So these are the areas that need attention. And I wish that we have women's bodies, women's groups, women's NGOs that will look at these issues a bit more analytically and not just consider them as health issues per se. And I don't think that we have really gotten into the task of gender budgeting. Gender budgeting, especially for health, is very, very important because if you allocate the same resources for men and women, that is an injustice. Women suffer more cancers. They suffer from breast cancer. They can suffer from uterus cancer. They can suffer from cancers related to, the reproductive organs. So that's why to allocate the same amount of resources for men and women is an injustice. And then we don't have enough creches, enough support system for women. Our women here, and I think across the country, do not yet enjoy reproductive rights. I've done a whole lot of research with Martin Luther Christian University on whether women actually, welcome family planning methods. But we find that when we speak to women here, they are so scared of asking their men or their husbands to wear condoms, and they themselves would not agree to any family planning methods because they are too afraid that the man might go looking for another woman if he is denied sex, and sex the way he wants it. So women do not even have the right to decide how many children they want. They continue to have children despite their poor health, despite not having the resources to bring up those children. So these are issues I personally am very concerned about and have been writing, have been engaging with different institutions that can address these issues. So yes, it's a tough world for women, and it's tougher for some women than for others. There are women who have support systems, who come from well-to-do families. They may not go through all these troubles, but there are the large majority of women in this country still have a long way to go to reach anywhere near that equal opportunity that we keep speaking of. Now, in my personal life, I've had a lot of ups and downs, but one that I will remember is when my house was attacked with a petrol bomb in April 2018. I think it was on account of a critical article I had written about a certain pressure group. They didn't take kindly to that, so they decided to attack my person, because throwing a petrol bomb at my residence is intended either to, to silence me completely, or to warn me not to write similar articles. But I don't think I give in to such threats. Uh, in 1998, when Meghalaya first sort of sunk into militancy, we were perhaps the last of the 7 states to have militancy. Some of us founded an organization called Shillong We Care, and we stood up and we spoke against militancy. We spoke against their methods, which was to extort money, and if people don't pay up, then to kill them. So all the businesses had slowed down. Everything, life had come to a standstill by the time it's 6 o'clock in the evening. All the shops were closed. Uh, our little band of Shillong We Care volunteers would walk around and ask people to keep their shutters up, just to bring about, a sense of safety. But it was very difficult. We faced a lot of threats as well. However, our our point at that time was that we didn't want to see Meghalaya going the way of Nagaland and Manipur, where things have gone completely out of control. And then you have the Armed Forces Special Powers Act imposed, and once that act is imposed, then it's a free reign for the state, and we didn't want that to happen. So that was why we came out very openly condemning those who had uh, spread militancy in Meghalaya. Thankfully, by 2001, we had a very strong home minister, and he was able to deal with this issue. So a lot of these militants have now come over ground. There are few who are still underground, but I think they're not such a formidable force today. So this is the story of my life, and I'd like to answer questions if anyone has questions. Thank you very much once again, Aambra Foundation.
Hello, ma'am. There
Yes.
are no questions as of now.
Okay.
We do have comments that from Padmavati says, kudos ma'am, a very dedicated, strong person in India. India needs someone like you. And Vinita Bakshi also wishes a very happy Meghalaya day. So
Thank you.
if we get any questions, we will definitely let you know and
Yeah.
forward it to you. Yes. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for the platform. Wish
Thank,
you all the best. Thank you.
thank you.